Okay, so first of all, I want to thank you very much, Phil, for joining us today, coming down to the back of Beyond in Devon to record this rather special track. We all know quite a bit about Phil's background, but for those that don't, would you like to just give us a little bit of where this whole movement of Born Fearless started, when you started to write, and how the story basically comes about?
Yeah, I was adopted as a child, so from sort of like day one, it was looking like it was going downhill for me. I was brought up by parents who then subsequently split up, and after a series of sort of like sequences of bad luck, I ended up in a children's home. Although people say to me, children's homes were, oh, how terrible your life must have been, Phil. I actually flourished in the children's homes, but was still exposed to, some fairly awful things whilst I was there, no stranger to paedophilia, put it that way.
Yeah.
So I did have a pretty rough start in life. Having said that, when you see where I went after that, subsequently joining the army, becoming a special forces operator, and then further on down in my life becoming a mercenary, some of the lessons I learned as a child set me up for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Helped me deal with some of the stuff I had to deal with, and put me on the right route for what turned out to be, a career spent in hostile and unforgiving environments. Subsequently, once I left that, I sort of stayed there to a certain point, going to Syria with Sky News. But obviously, you can't stay in that sort of background forever. So the more media-based sort of stuff started coming out of me. I've always had half a brain on my shoulders, so I sort of realised I could write. I've written a bestseller with the help of my ghostwriter Damien Lewis, and I am articulate enough to put things down, my experiences and what I see as vision, into forms which people can understand.
So what age did you join the army, and was that going to be something that you thought about, or did it just kind of happen?
I joined the military when I was 18 years old. I actually tried when I was 16, but was turned back because I had a juvenile criminal record for violence. I got a job by pure fluke on a scheme called the YTS, which was a youth training scheme, as a ski instructor. It was insane. I lucked in massively. I got this job as a ski instructor. But at the end of it, the guy that was running the activity centre that I worked out of, he was an ex-admiral in the Navy, and when I thought he was going to employ me, he turned around and cut me off straight away. He said, look, Phil, he says, there's nothing I can do for you. You've got no qualifications. You're not teaching material. As far as the education, we'll support you. And although you're a brilliant skier, I can't employ you unless you have teaching qualifications, and you haven't even got a cycle proficiency, you know what I mean? So you ain't really going anywhere. He then, in the next breath, mentioned, he said, have you ever thought about going in the army? And I said, well, I had. And before my feet could touch the ground, it was like I was in the back of the minibus and he was running me down to the careers office, which is where we went, and obviously I signed on, and I was in quite a hurry, actually, because my term on the YTS was coming to a close, and I didn't want to have too much of a gap to bridge because I wouldn't have had any money and no job and all the rest of it. So, yeah.
So what was the first first deployment that you went?
My first real operational deployment, funnily enough, was to Wales.
Was it?
As a firefighter, because the Welsh Fire Brigade went on strike, and we went down there, and so every time we got called out, the fire brigade went as well. And I remember once we were called out to a drowning horse on the mudflats, and we were in these old green goddesses, and they only did about 30 miles an hour. By the time we got there, the horse had gone. So presumably it either sunk or somebody else had got it out. Do you know what I mean? But we never found out what happened to the horse. So it was like, and then from there it was sort of like Northern Ireland. I spent about 5 years in Northern Ireland doing various jobs, from pounding the streets to hiding in bushes and taking photographs of people and all that sort of stuff. And then, like I say, that was really the only operational deployments that were on offer in those days. Bosnia had just started kicking off, but by this stage I decided I was going to have a crack at Special Forces selection. And that's where I went, and obviously...
That must have been a very gruelling process of being selected.
It's renowned as one of the hardest selection processes, if not the hardest in the world. And it is extremely tough, and it's tough for a reason, because they're not training you to play your craft in Mothercare, are they? It's, you're going to go out to some of the world's most volatile places when you've finished, and be expected to do some extremely unpleasant jobs on behalf of HMG, which is what you do. So,
bringing things forward a bit, obviously, how long were you in the forces before you then decided to, go more into private?
My all-over career lasted about 15 years in the military, with 5 years being spent in Special Forces and 10 years being spent in the regular army. I did get out under a bit of a cloud. I fell out of a Sergeant Major at the time, and things weren't going right, so I paid my way out. I didn't finish my time there. And as I got out, it was September in 2001, and of course the planes went flying into the side of the two towers in America, and I realised there's going to be some money to be made here. So I disappeared out to Pakistan and found a route into Afghanistan and started working privately. And that's where really I spent the next 15 years working privately in all sorts of difficult places: Afghanistan, Iraq, Gaza, Israel. I then switched fire into Africa. I did the gold mines. I went west, south, north, all over these bizarre places. And then I spent a little bit of time doing anti-piracy in the Gulf of Aden. And basically I just sort of like used the skills that I'd learned within the military to just plaster myself all around the world. And in some respects it was more difficult and more dangerous because I never had the backup. Some of these places you go to on your own. I got locked up in Togo once and had to totally get myself out of it. The embassy didn't want to know. They stole my sat phone. I was trying to get phone calls in it, and the only person I could really rely on was Wendy, which was like, And I always used to joke that in the military you book out through your various different stations. When you're a civvy, the only person worth booking out with is your missus because she's the only one who actually cares.
Yeah.
Which was insane.
Wow. So that brings us to the main, I guess, the main theme for Suzie definitely here, and some of her experiences is the PTSD. When were you first aware of such a condition, and was it through other people? Was it first hand, or was it something that gradually came on?
They were very tongue-in-cheek talking about it when I was in the regiment. I remember we came back from a very difficult job in West Africa, and they were saying, does anybody want to go sick? But it was tongue-in-cheek, and you feared going sick even if you did have problems with what you've done because of, you might lose your position within the regiment, you might be deemed that they couldn't deploy you anymore. There was all sorts of ramifications for not speaking up and not saying anything. So, I carried this into Civvy Street. I knew there was problems, and at some stages in my own life, I had some very dark times, but I wouldn't go and seek help with it because I was like, wow, Civvy Street, if I can't get a job because I've been diagnosed as what I would have described a nutter at the time.
Yeah.
You're unemployable. What am I going to do? Where am I going to go? I've got to feed my family. I can't get the money there. I wasn't qualified to go into mainstream work because there wasn't anything for me to do. I couldn't do this, that and the other for various different reasons. So all I knew was pick up a rifle and go to another country and try and make some money there. And that was all I could do. So for me to sort of like, and then, you come home and you start drinking, you have a few problems, even when you do go that low down, and this is when the skills I learned as a child. Because when I was a child in the kids' home, I had the same problem. Nobody would listen to you, and you couldn't flag up problems because it was, you're just a naughty child. No one listened to me. And so the skills I learnt, the coping mechanisms I learnt when I was a kid, I had to now start employing to myself to get myself through the dark times. And I very much am almost the eternal optimist with everything. I always say, everything on my body is designed to go forwards. My eyes face that way, my legs work and push me that way. It's very difficult to run backwards. It's very easy to run forwards. And that's the way I look at life. Everything is designed to go forwards, and so I don't dip into the past too much where I can. I try and forge ahead, and even when you're at the bottom of the pile, well, there's a positive to be had because at least you can see your way out of there. Do you know what I mean?
Wow, that's a really admirable kind of moving really in the room, isn't it? It's like wow, yeah. Do you think there is still this? I mean, people talk about awareness and that, not just about PTSD, but for common things. I mean, in education, we deal with a lot of they've all got certain classifications for kids these days of, whether you come from this background or that background or whatever. But this whole classification, I would say, as mental health, which goes into all different areas, whether that be psychological things, anxiety things, even autism things, lots and lots of different things. Do you still think there is quite a taboo around?
I think there is from certain quarters. Obviously, we've now we've made all these pigeonholes for all these various different things to go into all these different ailments. What we need now is for the people that have got the ailments to realise and stand up and go, actually, yeah, I fit in that box there at the moment, and I need to tell somebody, because then you can do something about it. If you don't say something about it, there's nothing. Your head isn't made of glass. I can't read what's going on in your mind. You've got to tell me. You've got to get it out. And I think that's where the crossover is. We can identify what the various ailments are, and we can identify possibly on in 99% of the cases how to cure those ailments. But the one thing I can't do is dip into someone's head and go, there you go, there's no door on the front of your head, but I look in and I go, yeah, it's all right, it's only that, let's stick him in that box. Yeah. It don't happen like that, do you know what I mean? So it's down to the individuals, and that's where you struggle, because, and that's where a lot, because you've got to admit it yourself. You've got to take something on board, and then you've got to do the hard bit. You've got to go and tap someone on the shoulder and go, actually, I've got one of these problems in those boxes over there, and I desperately need to talk to somebody. Once you've done that, that's fine. Boom, up you go, you're in there, because the stigma isn't there anymore. People are almost expecting it in some quarters. That's all right, we can sort that out, it's not a problem. But until you realise that you need to go and stick yourself on those pigeonholes for 5 minutes, you're gonna have some major problems. And of course, the more you deny it, the more you kick, the more you struggle, the more you don't speak to people, the more the problems stack up. So they start going that way then, and then the hole's getting bigger. So you're trying to climb out of something which you've actually filling in on top of yourself. You need to go and sort it out. You need to go and speak to people. The minute you identify something ain't quite right, it might be just a change in your behaviour. You might be drinking a little bit more than you might be getting a little bit upset, a little bit shorter with people. And people that are around these people need to point out to you, you all right, mate? You know what I mean? That sort of stuff. We need to communicate more. And I think where people have got their heads stuck in their tablets, their phones, and all that sort of stuff, it's not good. It's detracting from the real thing. Years ago, we used to sit down, and I wouldn't even have a television on. And I'd go, all right, Mum, yeah, I'm all right. And she could look down my face and go, yeah, he is all right, he's all right. Do you know what I mean? And if there was something wrong, she'd go, no, tell me, Philip, tell me there's something wrong. We don't have that anymore because we're too busy going like this.
That's a very interesting thing as well.
Yeah, I'm all right.
A lot of people will only talk about some of the things that are affecting them through social media, and because
it's the faceless side of it again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So we can't read your mind through your phone either. Do you know what I mean? At some stage, it's easy for me to, that's how all this bullying goes, isn't it? Because I can make myself a fake profile and I can start laying into people and all that sort of stuff. There's some major negatives with social media and the general internet, as it is. We've got to find a way of cutting away, having time out of that world.
Yeah.
And actually identifying what is good and what is positive about people. That's the way, we need more positivity in our lives.
I think that's a really interesting point. So if we move, it's not here, but moving to talk about one of the things that, obviously, knowing that I was going to do some work with you, finding out about some of the things you've done already, the network of veterans is absolutely huge in this country, isn't it? And it's something that probably most people are unaware of unless you are involved as a veteran or that you've got someone that you're involved with and so on. Do you think that the support network is in place for veterans in the way that it should be? Or do you think that there should be further things? Do you think that it's almost as though from an outsider who's had various friends who've been in forces, etc., it sometimes feels to me as though it feels like a taboo sometimes to talk to people because they have been in the military and they are veterans, and it's like, that's your club kind of thing, So do you feel that there is a certain isolation with that still?
No, I think we need to cross-pollinate a lot more the two societies, civilian and veteran and serving even.
Yeah.
Okay, and whereby, I do think that the government could do more and various agencies could do more. I also think that we need to police ourselves to a certain extent. I think we could do a lot more for ourselves and work together. I hear it repeatedly from all these charity organisations. Well, he's doing this, and I understand there's not a massive, great big pot of money. So you're all competing for that charity money. You're all competing at the same level. But when it comes to actually dishing that money out and sharing the wealth and all the rest of it, that's when people should be working together, because homelessness very often, cross-pollinates with drinking, with other problems that soldiers have had, PTSD, mental health and all that sort of stuff. Yet the charities, I'm a mental health charity, I'm a homeless charity, I'm this charity. So you need to sort of encompass what each other are doing. You don't need to tread on each other's toes. And yes, you can still compete for your pot of money. But when it comes to dishing out the advice and the actual, pushing the way forward that we deal with stuff, you've got to sit round the table and go, all right, let's do this together. Because if you don't, in you do it when you're serving. Do you know what I mean? It's very rare that this country has a blue on blue now. Do you know what I mean? What we call a blue on blue. Because the SBS tell the SAS what they're doing, and the fast jets know where our aircraft carriers are and all that sort of stuff. They know that sort of thing, right? And although they're all vying for the same pot and they're all trying to get the same money out of the government so that their own organisations can go forward, when it comes to dishing out what they need to dish out, they work together. Of course they work together. Or nobody knows what each other's doing, and it would just end up in a cluster every time we struck out the door. So that's what's going wrong in Civvy Street. That's what's going on. When guys get out, they're all doing tremendous work, but they become insular. And then they don't look out further than their own noses, and that's why, the homeless guys go, well, I've got some money last year, but I'm not. And no, do you know what I mean? They need to start actually sort of working together a little bit, I think.
On a helping thing, we're going to talk a little bit about suicide in a minute, because it's a hot potato around here, particularly with social media again, and this kind of peer pressure and things like that. Do you feel that the veterans could be offering advice and helping people with some of their experience, because of the extremes that some people have gone through, and like you're saying for yourself, experiencing all the things you have, that for some might be the best type of therapy, rather than sitting down and working out whether their mother was this or whatever. Where actually, first hand, you're talking about the best thing is to move forward into to do all these things.
Absolutely. Where guys have come all the way through the system, and where they have sort of like turned it around the other way, they need to look everywhere to spread that word and let people know how they did it and all that sort of stuff. So, with the veteran community, I like to include all frontline services. I include police, fire, nurses, all frontline services for me when I talk about this sort of stuff, because they all do a similar job. All right, we don't all get to go to Afghanistan, but we are all doing dangerous stuff, and we take our lives into our own hands daily to help other people, or we sacrifice lots of our time to help other people. So there's plenty of frontline services out there, not just veterans, who can benefit from all these experiences. And even if it's a really hideous experience, well, let's pick the bones out of it. Let's see why it was so hideous, and let's move forward and find a way that we can avoid it from being so bad next time. And that's what you've got to do. Every negativity has a positive side. Only if it's as far as to say, well, the positive out of that negative is that can only be better. Do you know what I mean? So there's always a way that we can go with this stuff. And yes, people should talk across the board. You get nothing from being insular. You get nothing from keeping it to yourself. You only benefit from experience by passing it around. Otherwise, it's just kept to myself. Do you know what I mean? If the first man ever to go like that with spark and make the fire didn't show the next man, there'd be no fire today, would there? All right. So that's the way it goes. You only benefit and move forward by showing other people, by talking about it. How can we make a better fire? Oh wow, and that's how things progress, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? That's how life is. So it's the same with all this sort of stuff. If you keep it to yourself, if you're insular, if you don't talk, you ain't never going to get any better from it.
Do you think that one of the reasons that you started to write was a form of being able to put some of those experiences out there and to share those things with other people and to reflect?
I had a career as a soldier, and I enjoyed my career as a soldier, and I was always said, if you find something you enjoy doing, you don't work. And I never worked throughout my life, because I enjoyed what I was doing. I loved being a soldier, and I loved the stuff I did. Outside of that, if you'd have said to me, is there one other thing you could do? It would have been, I want to perform. I absolutely want to perform. I want to be out there. I want to be showing people this. I want to be doing that. I want to be talking, I want to see the stars. Do you know what I mean? I want to be out there. Yeah. Right? That's what I want to do. And I do have a creative side within me, okay, which is bursting to get out at the moment. Do you know what I mean? It's absolutely insane. And I think this is where I'm at in my life. I've done my fighting. I've had my battles. And now what I want to do is pass on the wealth of knowledge that I've got to other people. I'm getting heavily into recruitment, heavily into, passing my knowledge on to the cadet force and people that are now starting off in their lives. Yeah, guys, don't worry about going down that road anymore, because I learned that lesson. Do it this way. There you go. Do you know what I mean? Now, they might not listen to me, but there'll be a certain few that do. And then they can progress that much further and that much faster, because they've got the benefit of what I've done. And I think there's so many blokes out there, so many veterans out there that have learned so many lessons, that if we started pushing it back a little bit and sharing this information around, people would actually, not only would there be more role models in life for some people to aspire to, who perhaps don't have the luxury of a role model in their life, which I never had when I was a kid, there'd just be so many benefits from getting more involved. But on a personal level, I am now in my element. I want to perform. I'm on the stage regularly. I'm getting television parts. I'm doing this, that, and the other, and it's where I want to be. And if I can actually perform and pass on a message at the same time, well, hang on a minute. Is Phil working? No, he's not. He's doing what he wants again, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? So I'm having a laugh, isn't I? I'm having it off.
Do you think that creativity is a really important thing for people to explore when they are suffering in any kind of mental capacity? What kind of benefits that might bring to people?
Anything which is positive is going to benefit someone who is down. Anything that puts a smile on someone's face who is down is positive. Okay? So you've got to find things. Not everybody's going to be able to write, not everybody's going to be able to sing, and not everybody's going to be able to do this, that, and the other. You've just got to find positivity. You've got to find, what is it that I want to do? It might just be as simple as someone who thinks, well, nobody wants to know that. Well, yes, they do. So there'll be a positive thing for everybody. But if you just sit down, mope, and, push your dinner around the plate and just get, okay, well, that's all right, have a drink. That's where you're going to get your problems. That's where you're going to start going down. It's difficult. I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying it's going to be something you fall straight into. But you need to find that one little thing in life that gives you that little spark that suddenly goes, I'll tell you what, it ain't that bad anymore, and you start going upwards.
It's really interesting to say, you say the spark, and I think that as someone that... How did he find today? I haven't finished yet. There's a woman talking to me in the background. That's weird. Strange woman in here. Talking about...
I'll brief lots and lots of young children, and I'll give them this briefing, and Wendy's going to give me something now, right? And at the beginning of the briefing, all right, I'll show them this, all right? I'll show them this.
This is not
planned, no. But as you've asked me this question, all right,
have you got a pen there?
I'm going to show you the relevance of how I deal with this and how I get this across to children, right? Because this is something I've done, and it's been a lot of kids have gone really when I do this thing, right? So at the beginning of the interview, I'll show them this, all right? I'll show them this. Okay, just whatever you do, I said, get yourself a piece of paper and put the T on it. Put a T on it, all right? Put a T on your piece of paper. Take that piece of paper, fold it up, all right? And put it somewhere where you know where it is, but you can't get it and you can't get it out, all right? Go and put it, go and put it back in your lockers when you go home, or go and leave it with your mum and dad or whatever, okay? And then whenever you're out and about, and you say to yourself, I can't do that. Well, you can, because that T's at home. And that's the T off of can't. And you can do anything you like. So there's if you keep that, you put that T in the bin, right? You've taken the T off of can't. And you can. And everybody can. That's what I tell young kids. Everybody can do anything they like if they put their mind to it. And they find that reason to do it, okay? Which will always be there for them. Do you know what I mean? There will always be there will always be a way. There will always be a way.
Brilliant.
And it's just positivity. Do you know what I mean? Instead of sort of like, as soon as you say can't, your whole life goes downhill.
Exactly.
As soon as you say can, you go, yeah. And that's with anything. Yeah. If I say to you can't have some sweets, to a kid, he goes, if I say you can have some sweets, he smiles. So that's the difference. The two words are completely different, aren't they? Exactly. Do you know what I mean? It might seem like you can't sometimes. Yeah. All right, but that's a different thing.
And to think that you can't is the worst.
Yeah, but you can.
And to go, tell us just a little bit before we talk about today about how Born Fearless came about and what the whole objective of Born Fearless is all about.
Right, Born Fearless basically was I wrote my first book, which was a very, very brief life story up until that time. I think it's been out about 8 or 9 years now. And we didn't have a name for the book. And literally there was a woman who proofread it, and she said, bloody hell, he's fearless he is. And that was it, Born Fearless came into that. And then I always said that I didn't just want to write a book. I didn't want to be a one-book wonder. I had this vision of it becoming a brand, my brand. My brand would be Born Fearless. And so, originally actually we had a knife in the O in replace of the circle, but we've just recently rebranded to get rid of that knife in an attempt to stand up to knife crime. So I said I'm not supporting a brand that's got a knife in it, on my own stuff. So yeah, and that was it. So Born Fearless is my brand. And I think everybody is born fearless. It's what we learn along the way that makes us form our opinions on some things or others. But we're all born fearless. Nobody teaches us to be scared. We form our opinions on the way. All right, we learn what we learn. Okay, and it's all about being cautious. Cautious is not being scared. All right. So no, everybody's fearless.
Wow.
Or they can be.
So you have come up with this notion of a song. Why? How? And what's next with it?
Well, Suzie got hold of me, or in fact she got on my Facebook page. My Facebook page, wasn't it? Because Wendy took the call. I do have a lot. We have a lot of people on my social media, and we saw this one. I didn't know whether to take it real or not at first. We're sort of like, really, because I do get a lot of requests to do this, that, and other on my social media. But we looked at it, and actually, when I thought about it, and I said, look, that is something I would. I remember writing a poem when I was at my school, and I presented this poem once. And it went down a tree. And everybody at the school said, gee, one day you'll be on the telly, son, you know what I mean? One day you'll be doing that for a living. And obviously I never did do that for a living. Now I'm beginning to realise, yeah, I can do that. I've taken the tea off again, haven't I? I can do that.
Yeah.
I can make a song. I can write a song.
Yeah.
Well, I can't put the music together, but with the help of someone else, I've put some lyrics together when we formed it into something that now is looking like it will be a song. And it'll be a bloody good one and all. And it will compete. I've got no doubt in my own mind that, with what you're doing yourself, with the editing, what Susie's done with the music and with my lyrics, we've got something. We've got something that's going to be potentially huge. Okay? And moreover, we're all doing something that actually means something to us and trying to help other people at the same time. So, when it comes to winning combinations, I think, and you do need combinations in life, do you know what I mean? You do need combinations to make things go right. We're on to a winner here, do you know what I mean? So, yeah, no, I'm very proud and just the very little I've seen today so far of the edit,
be great.
I'm extremely happy with the way things are looking, to be honest.
That's cool.
Amazed even.
So what's next for you then? What's the next thing that you want to be doing? You're going to write another book?
There's another book in the pipeline this year, without a doubt, if I can get it commissioned. More television is where I'll look. Obviously, the songwriting, even if this doesn't go well, we might churn out an album just for the sake of it. So there's definitely more stuff in the pipeline. And there's definitely more of Phil getting on stage. I've got the cruise liners now, which we regularly, fill the auditoriums on there, 1,000 people at a time. They love what I do. And I'm getting more versed in it. So this is my second career. This is my media career. But, I always promised if I was going to get into something like this and I was going to get a bit of notoriety and a little bit of fame, I would help other people with that notoriety and fame, because I don't believe it would be fair of me to spend my whole life taking out and none putting back in again, because that would be, that's out of order. So I do believe that I do owe quite a bit of putting back before I curl my toes up and disappear out of this place. Like, do you know what I mean? So, I feel in a privileged position at the moment.
That's absolutely brilliant. Anything else you want me to ask? That's absolutely brilliant.
What's your thoughts on the idea of running creative retreats?
Creative therapy.
Creative retreats for veterans.
Veterans, that's what I'm really
I think it's an intriguing thing, because I hadn't, like I say, until I saw that email, I had never even really considered making a song, because I don't know music. I can sing to a certain extent, and I can write to a certain extent, but you don't need none of those. All you need is it's a massive cog again. Do you know what I mean? Not everybody in the army is the guy at the front line, is it? You've got got people supporting, people doing this, people doing that. So there's a place for everybody within that wheel. And I think with the creative stuff, when you see the end product and you go, yeah, I was a part of that. Whether you be the songwriter, even the guy that does the technical stuff, whatever. When you see, and I think, guy, when you produce something, it produces a smile, doesn't it? When you produce something, you can go, I'm happy with that. It makes you happy. And when you're happy, you're in a good space, aren't you? Do you know what I mean? So anything that's, and as it goes back to being positive, I can sit round and I can mope and I can do this and I can do that and I can start moaning, I can pull the bones out of everybody else and I can sit there just generally being miserable, or I can go, I'll tell you what, I'll have a go at that. And if that option isn't there for some people, but if the option was given to some people, you go, I'll tell you what, son, do you fancy having a go at this? Because it might just go somewhere, and even if it doesn't, we can have a laugh. Oh, all right, we'll have a go at that. So yeah, therapy through creativity. It might not be songwriting. It might be making a piece of pottery. It might be teaching somebody a new skill. It might be learning how to paint or draw. Another thing I wish I could do. I wish I could paint. You know what I mean? I wish I could. Maybe that's on the cards after this. I don't know. But this is a great big world with so many beautiful, wonderful things you can do in it. It would be a shame if I identified something I wanted to do and didn't do it because I was too busy whinging about my predicament.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you was offered to go to a retreat with all these different creativities and painting, so you can explore your creativity around painting, songwriting, knitting even. Anything creative, would that be something that would be of interest to you?
Yeah, of course it would. Of course it would. And especially, like I say, if I was in a position where my only other option was to go and sit down the pub, or my only option was to do this, because you need stuff in your life. And this is where a lot of soldiers, when they get out, they've got so much going on when they're in. You know, they've got and activities are belt fed in front of them all the time. Do you know what I mean? When you get out, it can be difficult. It can be horrible. That's not there anymore. Do you know? And you need, you know, not everybody, because some lads are extremely successful in Civvy Street and take to it like a duck to water and bump, they're offline again. Do you know what I mean? Some guys need some form of replacement of what they've lost. And certainly if it's something that's achieving, you know, no matter what it is, you know, if you're achieving something, you're achieving something. And it puts a smile on your face. If you're not achieving anything, you're not achieving anything. And that doesn't put a smile on your face, does it?
And for some people that might be intimidated because they haven't, you know, maybe done some art or sung or picked up an instrument or done, you know, picked up that clay for the first time, people may think, oh, well, it's that artsy hippie kind of stuff. And it's breaking, for me, it's always been like in what we do in education, it's breaking some of those things down and say, you can do it in whatever way you like. It doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be right. And that's the great thing with creativity. It can be whatever you want, you know. If you wanted to...
It could be a sport even.
Exactly.
I'd never boxed. It was something I always wanted to do. And although I'm not going to be a professional boxer, I've now had 4 fights.
Yes,
You know, I fought in the York Hall. The York Hall is the iconic boxing thing in the world, as far as I'm concerned. And I've had a fight in front of 1,500 people in there. Do you know what I mean? So it is possible. You just got to apply your mind, and you just got to search for those places where you can do it. You know, there will always be outlets for you to do what you need to do.
And I guess we'll finish it off by saying the importance of getting people of all backgrounds and everything to mix together to start working with each other.
When I first left the military, you know, you're pretty well segregated in terms of rank. You know, an officer's an officer, a soldier's a soldier. You know, one of my best friends now is a captain. I mix with generals, and I still, you know, meet the most junior of private soldiers. You've got to expose yourself to everything, and you've got to embrace everything. It's no good thinking that you can't be part of something, because that word T has just crept into the word can again, hasn't it? Do you know what I mean? Keep that word T somewhere out of the way, right? Because you can. You definitely can, right? It doesn't always seem like you can, but you can.
Brilliant.
Okay? Happy days.
Happy days. That's awesome.
Thank you, Phil.
That's so
what they're told to do. So we're safe, we're free, you and me. They send them everywhere without a second glance. The soldiers haven't got a say, they just take a chance. But now the mental scars are deep. Let us fight back. Let us fight back. Shout out, shout out, shout out loud. Get behind our troops who serve this country proud. Rise up, and be strong. Let us come together. We are standing as one, as one. When the battle rages, there is very little time. The soldier throws themselves against the bullet bomb all night, listening to the orders, that's why they are there. No pen and paper here and no comfy leather chair. But now the mental scars are deep. Let us fight back. Let us fight back. Shout out, shout out, shout out loud. Get behind our troops who serve this country proud. Rise up and be strong. Let us come together. We are standing as one, as one. Shout out, shout out, shout out loud. Get behind our troops who serve this country proud. Rise up and be strong. Let us come together.